It's 1 a.m. You should be asleep. Instead, you're staring at the ceiling, replaying a conversation from 8 hours ago. Not the whole conversation, just one moment. That one thing you said, you're rewinding it over and over. The exact tone of your voice, the half-second pause before they replied, the way their eyes move for a fraction of a second. You start building a case against yourself. They probably thought I was weird. That joke didn't land. Why did I say that? By 2 a.m., you've convinced yourself that everyone in that room is still thinking about it too. Judging you, talking about you the second you left. Except they're not. They went home. They ate dinner. They forgot. Most of them don't even remember the moment you're still awake dissecting. If this sounds familiar, you are not broken, and you are not too sensitive. Something very specific is happening inside your brain. Something ancient, something that used to keep your ancestors alive, and something we're about to take apart, piece by piece. Tonight, we're not just talking about overthinking. We're going to understand exactly why your mind does this, and how to finally make it stop. Here's the strange part. This isn't a personality flaw. It's not just how you are. To understand why you overthink, you have to go back further than your last conversation. You have to go back about 100,000 years. For most of human history, being disliked was not an inconvenience. It was a death sentence. If your tribe cast you out, there was no apartment to retreat to, no other friend group to call. There was just the wilderness. And the wilderness did not care about your feelings. So the brain adapted. It built an early warning system, a part of you constantly scanning faces, tones, and silences for the earliest signs of rejection. That system kept your ancestors alive. But that system never got the memo that the world changed. Today, a read receipt with no reply doesn't mean a predator is circling. It means someone is busy. But your nervous system doesn't know the difference. It fires the same ancient alarm, heart rate up, stomach tight, thoughts racing, for a text message that it once reserved for a saber-toothed cat in the bushes. This is the pivot point. What used to be survival instinct now shows up as something else entirely: modern mental exhaustion. You're not weak. You're not broken. You are running prehistoric software on a smartphone-era problem, and it is exhausting you by design. Now here's where it gets almost unfair. Not only does your brain overreact to social risk, it also lies to you about how much anyone is watching in the first place. Psychologists have a name for this: the spotlight effect. And the data behind it is almost embarrassing to hear out loud. In study after study, people estimate that others notice their appearance, their mistakes, their awkward moments, at roughly double the rate that people actually do. You think everyone clocked that stumble over your words. In reality, most of them were thinking about their own stumble from an hour earlier. This creates what we can call the invisible audience, a phantom crowd that exists only in your head, watching a performance no one asked for. You adjust your posture for them. You rehearse sentences for them. You lie awake replaying scenes for them. And they were never there. But the distortion doesn't stop at what other people noticed. It goes one level deeper into what you remember about the conversation itself. Your brain doesn't record events like a camera. It reconstructs them every time you recall them. And each reconstruction is colored by your mood in that moment. So when you replay that interaction at 2 a.m., anxious and tired, your memory doesn't give you the neutral truth. It gives you the worst possible edit. The pause becomes longer. The tone becomes colder. The joke becomes more cringeworthy. None of it is footage. All of it is fiction, generated by a brain that is currently on edge. Which brings us to the moment this really takes hold, what we can call the cringe attack. You can have an entire evening go well, good conversation, good laughs, nothing wrong. And yet, out of 8 hours, your brain will select exactly one 5-second clip, usually the most awkward 5 seconds available, and loop it. Not the compliment someone gave you, not the moment you made the room laugh. The stumble. Always the stumble. Why? Because your threat detection system isn't interested in what went right. It is scanning for what might go wrong next time. Evolutionarily, remembering your mistakes was more useful for survival than remembering your wins. A win didn't need fixing. A mistake in the ancestral mind might. So here is the first real tool: clinical detachment. When the loop starts, don't ask, "Why am I like this?" Ask instead, "What is this? Data or noise?" Because that is exactly what it is. Noise. A misfiring alarm, not a verdict on your character. You are not a bad or awkward person because your brain replayed 5 seconds out of context. You are a person whose alarm system is slightly outdated, like smoke detectors that go off from steam in the shower. The steam isn't a fire. The loop isn't the truth. Once you can name the loop as noise instead of evidence, you gain something crucial: distance. And distance is where the loop loses its grip. And here is where we need to pause and reframe everything we've said so far. Because up to this point, it might sound like the goal is to convince yourself that people like you more than you think. To manage the anxiety by proving the spotlight isn't real. But chasing reassurance is still chasing approval. It just wears a calmer costume. If your peace depends on confirming, "No one actually judged me," you have not escaped the loop. You have just found a gentler version of the same trap. Still asking the room for permission to feel okay. The real shift isn't believing people think about you less. It's realizing it wouldn't matter much either way. This is the power of radical indifference, not coldness, not arrogance, but a deliberate lowering of the stakes. Every interaction you survive without embarrassing yourself is not a test you passed. It was never a test at all. Try this filter, the 10-10-10 rule. Will this moment matter in 10 minutes? Almost certainly yes, it still stings. Will it matter in 10 months? Rarely. Will it matter in 10 years? Almost never. You likely won't even remember it happened, and neither will anyone else in that room. Most of what keeps you up at night fails all 3 tests except the first one, and that tells you something important. The intensity of a feeling is not proof of its importance. Radical indifference doesn't mean stopping caring about people. It means refusing to hand a 5-second slip the authority to define your entire self-worth. That refusal, practiced enough times, is where quiet, unshakable confidence actually comes from. Not from being liked more, from needing it less. Understanding this is one thing. Living it daily requires structure. So here are 3 frameworks to install. First, the social shutdown ritual. Pick a specific time each night, say 9:30, after which you no longer process the day's interactions. Not suppress them, simply postpone them. If a thought about today's conversation arrives after that hour, you don't argue with it. You just note, "That's for tomorrow's review, not tonight's," and let it pass. The brain doesn't need every thought resolved the instant it appears. It needs a boundary. Second, observer mode. Before you walk into a high-stakes room, a meeting, a party, a first date, silently reframe your role. You are not a contestant being judged. You are an observer, gathering information about the people in the room. This single shift in framing takes your nervous system out of performance mode and into curiosity mode. And curiosity, unlike anxiety, doesn't spiral. Third, and most important, accept that some social discomfort is simply the cost of being a person who shows up. You will always slightly overshare, slightly stumble, slightly misjudge a room. That is not a failure of character. That is the tax everyone pays for participating in life instead of hiding from it. So go back to 1 a.m. Back to that ceiling, that replay, that courtroom in your head. The truth is, the room moved on before you even got home. The person you were so sure was judging you, they were already thinking about their own 3 seconds. The spotlight you felt burning on your every word was never switched on. You built it yourself, in the dark, alone, out of ancient instincts that were only ever trying to keep you safe. You don't need to win every room. You don't need to be remembered as flawless. You just need to stop handing your piece over to an audience that was never watching in the first place. If this video helped you see your mind a little more clearly, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next one.